all the athletes' names. I can ask you all the athletes. Good evening, specially invited guests, friends of track and field, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Barbados Track and Field Alumni Association panel discussion titled Back on Track, Shaping the Future of Barbados' Track and Field. The Barbados Track and Field Alumni Association was formed on November 5th, 2022. And the main objective of the association is to provide a forum for present and former Barbadian athletes to network, seek resources, and assist present national athletes with training, social, psychological, and financial need. Tonight, we have 4 experienced panelists who will be discussing this topic. And I want to begin first with Mr. Gabriel Burnett. He's a 5-time Carifta medalist, including the 110-meter hurdles, gold medalist at the 1994 Carifta Games in Barbados. Mr. Burnett represented Barbados at every level from Carifta Games to the 2000s. Mr. Burnett earned a full track scholarship to St. Augustine University in North Carolina, and he graduated in 2000 with a BSc in Business Administration with a concentration in marketing. Mr. Burnett.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to say too much more about myself because I really want to get into the meat of the man. I'm a current teacher at the St. Michael's School, and I have my own track program called Quantum Leap. And what we do is we try to expose all athletes to the next level. All right, we act as a family. It's something from St. Michael's School and Quantum Leap. We try to merge them together. I've learned a lot from George Williams, who was my mentor. He was the coach at St. Augustine's University, and he was the U.S. Olympic head coach. So a lot of what I bring to the table is stuff that I've learned from other coaches that have been successful. And the ideas and stuff that I have are things that I have learned throughout the years. So in the next couple of minutes and hours, we'll get to know a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Ms. Aisha Maycock. Track and field is one of her loves, and this has shaped her journey thus far. She has represented Barbados at the junior and senior levels. She was awarded an athletic scholarship to Austin Peay State University, Clarkston, Tennessee, where she was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2008. She was awarded many accolades, including Athlete of the Year in the Ohio Valley Conference, and she won the NCAA Women's Enhancement Postgraduate Scholarship to pursue her MBA at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. She sits on the board of the Athletic Association of Barbados as the Assistant Secretary and plays volleyball for Hill Road Chargers. Ms. Maycock.
I don't get no claps. Oh, I about to say. Good evening, everyone here, and good evening to all of you online. Thank you for joining us. I am a follower of Christ, first and foremost. I am also a manager at Signia Globe, where I've been for the last 19 years. I manage the corporate finance and stock brokerage functions. I am very active in my church, in ministries, the drama ministry, which is natural for me. I'm also in the greeters ministry, women's ministry, singles ministry, and my God-given purpose is to serve others and to connect with them in a relatable way. As Rudy mentioned, our moderator, track and field is one of my first loves. Whenever anything to do with track and field come on, you can guarantee that whether I'm in the office or whether I'm on the court, I am going to be informed, and I'm going to turn everyone around me into an expert as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Maycock. Mr. Joseph Kodji Codrington first represented Barbados at the age of 16 when he was in fourth form at the Commerce School, and his love for athletics blossomed after that experience. He then diligently pursued a U.S. track and field scholarship in order to further his education and continue his running career. This led him being able to reach back and assist other athletes to obtain a scholarship at the same university he attended. Very noble. Some of these athletes were Joyanne Clark, who is part of this organization, Gina Tempro, Ingrid Boyce, the Honorable Minister of Education, Technology and Vocational Studies, Ms. Kay McConney, Jackie Grant, and Brian Ben, among many others. Mr. Codrington.
Can you hear me? Okay. Ms. Maycock mentioned that she's a follower of Christ. I got my scholarship because of a prayer that I made in the middle of the day at home, asking for a job and for a scholarship. And I promised God that if I got that scholarship, I would be a Christian. I said that part very, very softly so he wouldn't hear, but apparently he heard. I have one witness to this, a friend of mine that went to Combermere with me by the name of Charles Haynes from Eagle Hall. He was with me when we started looking for work until my job came through, which happened in like 30 days. I worked 3 months, and then I got this strange letter saying, I'm giving you a scholarship to some place called Ypsilanti, Michigan. I couldn't pronounce that name at all. So I was like, man, now I got to be a Christian, because God apparently heard that whisper. And so that's exactly what I've done from that time. After getting out of college, I wanted to stick around with track and field. I was told by a Nike rep that if I could run 149, he would take me to Europe. I was running 150 in the half mile, and I was like, and I got to train like 6 months just to get 2 steps more. But I have this degree, I think I'm going to just go and work. So I didn't follow up on that. I went to work. But I still wanted to be around track and field, and as a result, I became an agent. And I've been doing that for 23 years and still helping others. And one of the main people I want to help are Bajans. And for some reason, and you guys can help me with this, for some reason, I hear things like, I don't want a Bajan agent. I want somebody from here or there or anywhere else. So I want to address that and put it to rest. And hopefully we can get that done as we proceed here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Codrington. Mrs. Sharita Odell, an Olympic qualifier in the long jump for the 1996 Continental Games in Atlanta, competed for Rice University in Houston, Texas. She gained her MBA from the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico, where she was also an assistant coach in jumps. She held the national long jump record for 19 years and represented Barbados in the triple jump as well. She has been a real estate broker for 18 years, who was twice featured on the popular HGTV channel and served as a weekly real estate correspondent on Morning Barbados. Her company, Speaks Life, produces motivational speeches, self-improvement workshops, and empowerment events. Ms. Sharita Odell.
Absolute pleasure to be here. I was reminiscing at the fact that my track and field career started because I grew up with boys all around me in my gap, about 7 boys in the neighborhood. I was the only girl. And the only way to compete with them fairly and beat them was to run about 50 meters in my batter slippers in front of our houses and win. And that's how my track and field career started. And thanks to track and field, that is what was able to get me to the USA. With a scholarship worth about $20,000 a year, giving you food, tuition, accommodation, all the necessary perks. And even beyond that, track and field is then what helped me to get my master's degree in allowing me to go to the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico and coach the jumps there. So track and field has been responsible for catapulting me into where I am now. It brought me a lot of joy. Even in being here at the gala dinner 2 days ago, it felt good to be with my colleagues at the table and to realize that that was where I spent 5 days a week, every week, at the National Stadium, with my peers. So track and field is more than just the sport to me, and I know for many other.
And we're going to start off with a question which I think all of you would have some joy in responding to. And the question is, how would you characterize your experiences in track and field? So we're going to start first. I know Mr. Burnett doesn't want to go first, so I'm going to start with Sharita.
Well, I think I just give a little bit of it there. My experiences in track were great. The reality is that as a Bajan, I perform better, sadly, outside of Barbados, as most Bajan athletes do, because you're in a world without that overseeing eye of us lovely Bajans who like to be judge and jury. And but I had great experiences. The athletics that I experienced back then was not just about raw natural talent and ability, but we had great coaches. I was coached by Orlando Green at Harrison College, and I also went through the ranks of Mr. Cox, Anthony Lovell, even Blackie at some point. I think I was in almost every single club there was. Don't judge me. But because of that, I met a lot of people, had a lot of friendships, and really enjoyed track. Also, it was responsible for me getting to other lands. That's how you got to Guatemala and Trinidad and Tobago, and you know, so it really showed me, especially the region as well, and I enjoyed it for what it was worth. I felt that I got as far as I could go. I didn't see a life for me after college, track and field, and that was okay, but I had that in my mind from the beginning. I didn't really want to go much farther than that. So for what it was worth, it did a lot in my life for the period in which I engaged in it.
Kaji, you're up next.
My experiences in track and field. Varied, pleasurable. I am still seeking to do things now. I've been all kind of places that I never expected to go. I remember my first, at 16, making the Crifter team. I didn't know what Crifter was. And I definitely didn't know you could represent your country just running around. I remember getting on my first plane. I remember stepping into the restroom and not knowing what it was about on the plane. And once I turned around, I saw there was somebody else in there. And then I realized it was actually my reflection. I was like, yes, that happened. But you know, being able to travel to different places was helpful, but the love of competing, looking at somebody and saying, I could beat this person, and then finding out they're fast. And then training all year to beat one specific Jamaican guy in my event, and then when I get to Carifta, oh, he don't run anymore, we got a new guy. And the new guy is faster. And I'm like, dang. But, you know, eventually I ran out of Carifta time. My last year was 79 in Jamaica. And, you know, I couldn't train anymore to beat the next guy because it was time to move on. To this day, what I'm trying to do is help others with what I consider one of the best sports in the world. You start running by the time you're 2, and you can run when you're 90. So running is an important thing to me. I was just telling Gabriel that in the U.S. I've started a track and field league. Nobody else in the U.S. has done it before. There's no athlete that gets paid a salary. Almost everything is done by company, and they have the grip on it. So I'm fighting through this murk, trying to get to the point where I think an athlete can make a salary, just like NBA or NFL and the others, and sharing the proceeds from the gate. And so I'm working that. It's very tough, but I'm working at it. And at some point in time, I hope to have some Bajans in that as well. So that's been my journey, and a lot more that I could add to it.
Aisha?
How much time do we have, Rudy?
About 2 minutes.
My experiences in track and field are wide and varied. From making the Carifta team when it was actually here in Barbados for the first time and being so excited for it to be here, because I actually didn't qualify initially, and I got this letter and I was all excited thinking I made it, and they were like, yeah, you're going to be a basket girl. I'm like, what? But we had another Carifta trials and they actually selected me to do the high jump, and I actually won a bronze that year, so that started my journey at Carifta. And then from there, just being as part of in the school sports and BSAC, and winning the girls and boys championships in 1997. Comamere, we ruled, yes, we ruled. Anyway, we're gonna get back there, but having excellent coaches in Mr. Harcourt Wason, high coach, and then going on scholarship to another Bajan coach, Elvis Ford, who was like a father to me, and having many highs and lows in college. If you think you're somebody, wait until you get beat in a race. Man, discipline, focus, crying. Remember one year we went to Carifta and we were ranked 1 and 2 in the high jump, and we came 7th and 8th because the wind just did not cooperate with us. You didn't even have to touch the bar. Came home crying. Then you get, plug in there. But at university, it was really good for myself, for Sheena Gooding, for Lauren Maul. We were the athletes there with Coach Ford. We got inducted into the Hall of Fame. We represented Barbados well by being good student athletes. As Gabriel will tell you, you're a student athlete, and then being inducted in the Hall of Fame, getting good GPAs. And for me, track and field is life.
Gabriel?
I have mixed feelings, both as an athlete and as a coach. I remember in '92, I qualified for the Carifta Games. I was the fastest hurdler of Barbados had. And on the day of the trials, I was going to the video shop to return a tape, and I dropped the umbrella on my toe, and it busted open my toe, and I couldn't wear shoes. So then I ended up missing the championships, and the guy that I was beating all the time, he went. And when I went off to college and stuff, I got kicked off my first college team. Right, and I got put back on the team like 3 days later because I was the only athlete from the school that was ranked nationally. I was ranked number 4. But I've had some good times as well. Track and field has helped me to see the world for free.
Yeah.
Malaysia, Portugal, Australia, France, all over the world I've been for free. I've met some great people through the sport. I've learned a lot from the people around me. I remember one thing that Boba taught me: use the sport, don't let the sport use you. And that's something that I have taken with me throughout my track and field journey. And it's something I try to bring to the table for all the lives I may touch in the sport.
Thank you. Panelists, those were excellent answers. I think you had a very varied background. So here's question number 2. I'm going to start with you first, Scotty. How do you think your experiences in track and field may assist in shaping the future of track and field here in Barbados?
I think it can point to a direct path to success from the junior level to college or not, and go pro if you're good enough. And what you can do at that level. You can make a life for yourself, you can make enough to start your own business or bring people in with you. There's a path, and they need to know about it, as opposed to just curriculum or just school sports. I know there's a lot of joy in that, and representing the school and so forth, and of course representing your country. But there's more that you can do. Like Gabriel said, you're actually looking to the life sport and what it is. And it can do a lot for you if you do that. That I think I can bring that experience because I've seen it. I always love it.
Aisha?
Thank you, moderator. For me, as a person who loves track and field, I remember being activated because I would never miss what was in the school sports at the time. And I would always take vacation. And whenever any school sports came around, I would always be at the National Stadium. And I remember being invited to a panel by our president, Ms. Catherine Jordan. And then I actually got an invitation to sit on the board. Bringing an experience from an athlete, you get to help shape track and field because you're in it, because you're the one who would have been on the track, the scholarships, the likely travel. So those kind of experiences do make a difference. And I believe that even for us who are on the Peripheral Alumni Association, there's so much that we can do, and we can also teach students. Like my coach at Commoner, whenever they get ready for BSAT, he would invite me, Mrs. Small, would invite me to come and talk to the athletes and share the stories. We all have stories. The athletes want to hear it. Can be a source of inspiration. And there's so much, I believe, that experiences that we all have here and those in this room that can continue to shape the lives of those who are coming up.
Thank you. Gabriel.
All right, I'm a firm believer that experience beats paper. And I think what I've learned over the years from coaches, from other athletes when I travel, is what I can bring to the table. I believe in Barbados, we currently have 3 coaches that have been through the NCAA system have been going to the Olympics. That's myself, Tanya Oxley, and Leo Harris. I believe Carrie Beckles is now getting involved in coaching. And I think that through mentorship, it doesn't have to just be from us, but I think through mentorship, we are able to help others. Sharita mentioned earlier about how the gala, how she was reminiscing at the gala. And I was there with the guys like Roger Jordan and Terry over here with them. I video called her coming to talk to guys, right? And Andrea Blackett was here. We have so many people out there that are willing to help track and field in Barbados. But it's just a matter of having the avenue. So I think that everything that we have learned, and every one of you, the 4 of us over here, we've all been through it. What we have gone through, those are things that people can learn from. Sometimes you have to take a step back in order to move forward. It was a political song that one step forward, so that one step forward. Yeah, right? And I think that's something that sometimes we need to do. And if we can do that, I think we can progress on a rapid rate.
I would like to, here and talking morning, looking people in the eye, and then you go over there and you realize you're anonymous, you mean nothing. It can be one of the loneliest feelings in the world. Or you say morning and somebody's looking at you as if you're about to rob and pillage them. Cultural differences, simple things like that make it not feel like home and can make it very unpleasant. You can end up at a university where your demographic is in the minority. How do you adjust to that? You can experience racism and discrimination. It is something you cannot describe to anybody, but you can feel it. You know when you're not liked, when you're not hated. It doesn't matter what your intellect is. You could be on your way to being a neurosurgeon. Racism is something that can make you break down and cry, and you cannot describe it to someone. Prepping athletes in a culture which is 95+% black, that when they go to college, they can feel totally different from the way they felt here. That's something that it's good to be there for people, for athletes, for them to bounce things off you when they're not feeling comfortable. So those components, yes. Also in terms of knowing what it was to experience the thrill of victory. When we think athletics, we often think of being on the podium, yay! But what about the agony of defeat? When you have to deal with injury and the possibility of you could be put off the team and nobody there to empathize or sympathize with you. So there's a lot about having walked this walk that you can bring to someone else now coming to the table. Just knowing what it feels like to be there, you can really mentally help prepare someone, or just be there as a what's the word, soundboard if they need help or advice. So that's definitely the benefit of having gone down this road before.
Great, beautiful answers again. So what are some of the major challenges that you foresee in track and field? And then what are some of the critical changes which you think must be made to effectively navigate that future? So what are some of the major challenges? And then what are some of the critical changes which you think we need to make to effectively bring track and field where it should be? I see, Coach, you took the mic. He's leaning on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, give her
The first thing I think is mindset. 7 years ago, I brought 12 athletes from the U.S. to Trinidad for a meet. When I was there, I met some young Asian athletes. And I talked to a few of them and asked them questions. And this is what I heard. I don't want to go to anywhere where there's a lot of Asians. This is talking about scholarship. I was like, I don't understand. Because in my time, if you got a scholarship, it could be last that you were going. So when I heard, I don't want to go anywhere where there are too many Asians, I was like, are you living in Barbados? There are too many Asians there. So that was kind of weird. And then I also heard, don't go where this particular coach is. And we have a lot of Asian coaches in the U.S. that are top universities. But I was hearing, don't go where the particular coach is. And I wonder where that came from. I suspect I know, but I don't know if the audience here can speak to something like that if you're involved in track and field here in Barbados. Because the mindset is not about trying to push forward and be the best. The way we did it, it's a different thing. I don't know why that is, but that's the first thing that needs to change. I think you asked what I think we can do in the future. So the emphasis that I know about has been at the junior level, like the idea of B-side and so forth. What happens after that? And then after that. And I know that the after that is important because I've seen how Barbados reacted to Shadia Williams doing what she did at Commonwealth League. They were happy, they stayed up late, whatever time frame it was to watch her run. And they felt empowered. And so that is the direction we should be going in, but it has to start back here so that we change that mindset, present the opportunities, and go from there. One of those opportunities we can take from the only place on earth that has an NCAA organization, which is the U.S. Nowhere else on earth has it. When I first heard about it, I told my dad, he was like, you think they're going to give you a degree, you just got to run? I was like, yeah. And he was like, nah, the Americans aren't that stupid. But yeah, this is the only place that has it. So just 1 year ago, they introduced something called NIL, Name, Image, Likeness. So since the 1800s, the NCAA was making money off the name, image, and likeness of a particular athlete that's good at whatever sport it is. And I'm talking millions of dollars, especially in football and so forth, American football, basketball, and so on. Yeah. We can have something like that here. I mean, I say something like that, for example, I saw that Shafak made up to the East Coast and it was supposed to be a taste of Barbados. Food from Barbados, Shafak. I was like, well, where's the rice and peas? I didn't see any of that. I just saw Shafak food. But let's say there's a young, upcoming B-side kid that just traversed through. You can pay that kid something. You can go to any place because he's getting paid. You can use the same criteria. What's your Instagram amount or TikTok or whatever? And if we give you something, you just talk about it, and those people will follow. So you can pay these athletes something, and because of the NIL, it wouldn't jeopardize that person getting a scholarship because the NCAA started this thing. So, like right now, if you get paid for a meet here or somewhere in the Caribbean and they know about it, you're not going to get that scholarship. But if it's something set up similar, then you have the opportunity to still get your scholarship and run around overseas. So I think that's one of the things that we should look at. We need to move forward, advance forward. And Barbados has the capability, the ability, and the resources necessary to do it. If Jamaica could do it and their dollar is $220 for $1 US, ours is still $198. We got more money than they do, let's do something about it. So there's a method that can be utilized, and we just need people to get involved, and the businesses.
Great. I'm just going to let it flow freely, so who wants to go next?
All right. There's so many things, but in the interest of time, I'll try to keep it simple. One, communication. I think communication makes and breaks everything. All right, and we can merge athletes of the past with the present as we look to the future. Associations, government, communication. If we communicate with everyone, everyone can get on the same page, and we can learn a lot from each other, right? We shouldn't feel intimidated because you're now starting out as an athlete or you're now starting as a coach. If you have ideas, it should be an avenue for you to bring those ideas to the forefront. What you mentioned in mindset. My problem is that in Barbados, we still focus on curriculum. We need to get beyond curriculum. I always tell the athletes, we don't train for research, we don't train for we train to run fast at the end of the season. You're not going to get a scholarship just because you went to curriculum. We have 3 athletes going on scholarship this year. Josiah Paris, his scholarship was organized in December. That was finalized in December. Brianna Boyce and Jalen Pierce, their scholarship was finalized the day after Blow Sports. And for those who don't know, Blow Sports is semi-school sports, just held at night. And because in track and field, you don't need a video, just in the performance. All right? And through that performance, and I'm glad to see Miss Black in here. She's a coach in the States, right? And she's one that you can reach out to. She can tell you how it goes. I mean, in 2023, we have coaches that don't know what is needed to get that scholarship, right? And if we just communicate and share what we have, things can go a long way. Next thing is our culture. Our culture is one of academics, but we need to learn to marry the academics with the athletics, right? I used to talk about being a student athlete. I absolutely hate when term 3 comes around, it's time for exams. You stop your child from training, but yet you want that scholarship, right? You have to learn that in order for that scholarship to come through, you have to marry the academics with the athletics. And that's something we're big on at Sabbatical School. I didn't talk about Sabbatical School, I didn't talk about one because that's what I know, that's where we work. Right? So, for example, at the end of every term, this is pre-COVID, the end of every term, all of the athletes on Sabbatical School track team, they had to come to the staff room. Why? Because we had our management team sitting down outside the staff room, waiting to see their reports. Right, so from first form, they know this is what they have to do. Right, and I think that if parents can understand that it can work, it can go together, right, because they will spend a lot of money on lessons and stuff, right, because they just look at the academic side. There are 2 things that put Barbados out there. Sports and reality. Right? And if reality is reality. Right? But sports is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I think Barbados is just happy getting a couple $1,000s here and there. Right? Corporate Barbados and government, they need to buy into our part. Understand that we have talent here in Barbados. Not just the athletes, also the coaches. We have the talent here. Right? No one does anything different. Right? It's just understanding athletes and working with them. The support system. And it's that support, it's not just a financial support. Right? That emotional support. And another thing that I really hate is that when an athlete does well, a company would take out this big $1,500 ad in the paper saying congratulations. Why not give that money to the athlete? I guarantee you there's no one in the history, no one in the history of the world that ever went and bought a product because a company said congratulations to someone that is successful. Tell me, why is it so hard for us to understand that together we can go a long way? We always heard it takes a village to raise a person. I believe it takes a nation to raise a team.
Thanks, Gabriel. Good thing you didn't want to say much.
Yeah, it sounds like he was waiting on that one question. What do you think? Well done, Coach. Challenges are many. I think that for all of us in this room and online, any person that is tuned in to anything track and field will know that there are many challenges. My theme, my overriding theme is with more, we can do more. I feel as if most people have a passion about track and field in one way or another, but it does not necessarily translate into personal contributions. And the reason I say that is because we don't necessarily see a lot of faces who claim to love track and field at Usain Bolt. You do not need to have a degree or even a skill to lift a hurdle, retrieve an implement, come and speak on the mic. We should never be in a position where we are struggling to find officials, where we have to ask coaches to help put up hurdles, where we have to ask parents if they can come and bring this child around there. I mean, it is hard for track and field to progress if people only turn into rum shop commentators when there's a big track meet. Like, for example, that used to be one of the things that drove me crazy when I was an athlete, because you would only hear people who were experts whenever it was Olympics or World Championships or even Carifta. But then after that, you don't see them at all. There are many ways that people can contribute, whether it's financially, whether it's to come to the actual Usain Bolt. Shanae Williams competed at our nationals, and the Barbadian public didn't necessarily were there to support her. And we find people saying that at the end of the day, we love track and field. If you love it so much, then why are you personally not helping? That is one of the challenges that I find. Another challenge I have, of course, and I'm expecting it to come here, I'm not going to be able to answer it full, but we need better facilities. Whenever we are going to run up against big countries, they're not just faster, they're stronger as well. We need weightlifting facilities. We need athletes to be able to train at night so you don't have to run and go home. We need to have medicine, supplements, physiotherapy, massage therapy, it all, but we can only do more if we have more. And my overarching contribution tonight is for each person in this room, because I'm not interested in the note today, what will happen and what will you do after we leave this meeting?
Thank you, thank you. Last but not least.
One of the things that, and I know y'all been joining the chorus, how often is it that we see one of us doing extremely well, either winning a gold medal or bronze medal at one of the highest levels? Man, I always knew you would do it, you know? All of a sudden, we are the biggest supporters of that person now, only because the flag has gone up. Where were we before? You know? So a lot of athletes are competing in a world of isolation until they become of renown by Beijing standards. And let's be honest, people, we are one of the most hypercritical societies in the world, I dare say. So to come and even perform in front of a Beijing audience, Beijing spectators, it is hard. It is really hard. But that is our culture. How do we get past, as Aisha was pointing out, where we come to, as I said, the worst performances I ever had, sadly, were in Barbados. And you can say, but your mind should be stronger than that. It doesn't matter that. Is that when you come here, you don't feel as if you are in front of your home field. You know when you have basketball games and you have the home court advantage? You don't feel that when you're here. Because you sit down and feel as if there is three stands of judgment literally waiting for you to fail. Let me see what this overseas-based athlete. All of a sudden when you get that scholarship, you're not a Bajan anymore. So whereas you should be embraced as, yay, our Bajans are going over there and trying to improve and they're going to a higher level of academics, it's not seen as you are one of us anymore. Yeah, look, she overseas based, let me see what she can do in this jump here. Look at what she's doing in the hurdles. And the athletes don't feel that support when they come back as overseas-based athletes. So we have to kind of reflect, how do we change that? Secondly, when you look at a country like Jamaica, listen, they have depths and depths of that nationalistic pride. When you go into a boys and girls track meets, they're all wearing their national colors, for God's sakes. What does that tell you? They see way above and beyond school. Where you going to school, they see way above and beyond age group. They are thinking of that nationalistic pride first. What is this 7 to 8-year-old boy going to become for Jamaica when he gets to another level? There's something about us in which we have to start seeing the bigger picture. We have to start preparing for our athletes in such a way that when they're finished college, there's more. Remember I started off telling you that I kind of was not ever thinking of going to a professional level, simply because I couldn't fathom in my mind how was it even possible. So I think I almost told myself that by the time you get to the end of university, this is it. So what do we do for those athletes that we see have tremendous talent and they have more in the tank after university? How do we prepare for them? And I think initiatives like the Alumni Association and so forth are setting, are charting the course for that. But these are the areas, sadly, in which we fall short. And even though we kind of know this, how do we now synergize our efforts to change the script? And I think that's what makes it most challenging for all of us. We want better, we want to do more, but how?
I think I can speak to go ahead. Before you speak though, because this next question kind of ties into that one, and I want to zoom in on each of your specialties. So I'm going to read a question. I hope you remember what you have in mind. Yes. But the question is, in your capacity as a coach, as an agent, as an administrator, as a former athlete, what are some recommendations that you would make to bring about that positive change in track and field? So we're speaking specific to your careers, right? What are some of the changes that you would bring about to see those positive changes in track and field?
What I was going to say ties right in.
Right, I'm sure.
As an agent, I did this in Moscow and in Beijing. I sat with 250 Jamaican fans. I was the only Asian on the bus, both places, 2 different years. And the very last day of those World Championships, they got on that bus and then the head of it said, okay, we're planning for next year. She had a captive audience. Everybody put up your money now. We're coming here to cheer for the Jamaicans. And they're more super hypercritical of their athletes than we are. Jamaicans, I sat with them and heard them say, we're going to get gold, silver, and bronze. Even though we had Justin Gatlin in the race. This guy can't beat Justin Gatlin, but they didn't care. He's a Jamaican, he can win. And what I saw was that they not only planned a year ahead, they also planned for people that they didn't know. So some kid in Jamaica who's really fast, somebody in New York or in Miami that's Jamaican, he owns a food store or whatever, and he's going to put $20,000 toward that person. They're going to bring him to the U.S. and make sure that they're taken care of because they're good athletes. And in the meantime, the entire Jamaican population is like, so-and-so is done, they can't win anymore. I don't know why they're not fast anymore. Look at this, they're critical. But they do something to make sure that the athlete is getting at. And we can do that. We have a better economy than they do, but yet they're finding money to do it. I've watched them in 3 or 4 different Olympic and World Championships by being in and around them. And so I've seen this, and I always wondered, was it so hard to beat the Jamaican? And it's strictly because they get that support. One flag. Now, I'm not saying that our administrators go, they get that flag too. But it's the same thing that she said, you don't feel as though you're getting the support. It is sketched. Because the expectation is not that you're going to medal. And when we do medal, you know what the reaction is. We're very happy. But we can do more to help the athletes that show promise from a very young age and really bring them through the ranks so that they don't just fall off. And I always wanted to make sure I never became one of those people that stood in front of Cape Shepherd and said, hey man, I can give me 75 cents there for bus fare. I didn't want that to happen to me. And I was 20 before I got my scholarship, and I was like, whew, we got over there. Because if you don't get a scholarship, you're pretty much done. That's it.
Yeah. Everybody is up next.
All right, as a coach, 2 areas that we look at. Active communication and mentorship. Right? Is that in the past, we've had coaches bickering with each other, and Barbados is so small. I mean, we're too small to have coaches attacking each other. Right? If coaches can come together and just respect each other and share ideas, right? Because you're a coach because you love track and field, and because you feel you have something to offer. Right? I don't think anyone out there is saying they're a coach just to say they're a coach. George Williams, he used to say, am I a coach if I don't have an athlete? And then on the flip side, I'm still an athlete if I don't have a coach. So that was to let me know that the athlete is more important. Right? And we need to be athlete-centered. I've had 3 great people in my life. Outside of my close friends, they're all my bosses at some point. Because George Williams was my college coach, and if he comes in here now and he says this pillar is blue, I'm going to try and convince everyone here this pillar is blue. Although I can see that it's green, I will try and convince everyone it's blue. That's how much I believe in him. And I saw him get on the phone, and he's a big coach in the States, one of the most respected in the States, worldwide. I saw him get on the phone. He was having problems with one of the athletes, and he got on the coach and he called Harvey Glantz. Harvey Glantz, for those who don't know, is another big coach in the States. He was at the University of Alabama. He coached Karani James. And my coach got on the phone and called him to see what he can do with an athlete. And at that moment, I told myself, if my coach, who is on this level, can do that, why can't I do that? So I don't hesitate to communicate with another coach or stuff if I'm having an issue, because I learned from George Williams. I mentioned 3 people. The other 2 are my former principals, Mr. Perkins and Dr. Mears. St. Michael's School, they are also student-oriented. So I've taken the athlete-oriented approach and the student-oriented approach. And I think that if more coaches would do that and understand it's not about them, then we can go further. I must say that coaches have gotten closer, we're sharing ideas and stuff a bit more now. But if we can just totally get away from, this is my athlete, or I want to take this athlete and that stuff, we can go a long way. And we have some young coaches coming up. I remember at BSAC, see Kerry Beckles? Kerry Beckles is one to look out for. And what she was able to do with Princess Margaret in the year that she was there is nothing short of phenomenal. Right? And if she gets the support, I mentioned earlier about experience versus paper. Personally, knowing where Kerry Beckles came from as an athlete and stuff, and she's gone through the NCAA system and she's learned from others and stuff. We have very few female coaches in Barbados. For me, Kerry Beckles is a coach that I think should be groomed to be a national coach. She doesn't have to start at Carifta or whatever. Bring her on as an assistant coach at some level and let her learn the roles, because I think Kerry has so much to offer the sport. Right? And if we can get to the point where we're respecting others as coaches, I think we will go further on it.
Is there anything left for me to say?
Whatever you want to say.
Is there anything left?
I'm sure there is.
Yes. I don't profess to speak on behalf of the board, but I am on the board of the association, as you know. From where I sit, I see, as I mentioned before, with more, we can do more. The association is not by any means a secret society. We actually have a website as well, aab.sports.eb. We have live results. We have, so we are tasked with ensuring that the NACAP mission is fulfilled here in Barbados. We are the federation. So when it comes to cross country, preparing athletes in the fall, and then carrying out the mission of track and field the next year. But I feel as if for us who are volunteers to be on the association, this is not a paid position. We have a very dedicated board. We have a very dedicated team of officials for every single track meet as well. And Gabriel will tell you as well that his club for sure always cooperates with the association. And I think that that's one of the things that more clubs can do as well. Register your athletes sometime, get them to the meet sometime. Let them know which events they're in. There are so many things that you can do to help run the meets. We struggle, as I mentioned before, in getting people out there. If people are this passionate about track and field, they would not want to see it die. They would not want to see us having to come up all the time and say, help, help, help. My thing is, put your hands to the plow, put your money where your mouth is.
We've covered it all. But what I would like to say is that with everything, you have to have a buy-in. Let me explain. First of all, there has to be buy-in from two aspects of it. One of the things about track and field I will start by saying is that where we are now is way farther than it was back in our day. We've come a long way, so we can, even though we're here and we're critiquing and assessing with the aim of moving forward, we've come a long way, folks. Even things like results and trying to give us exposure on the website and this and that and the other and the social media. We have come a long way. Before, if I did something spectacular, nobody knew. It would be in this size portion of a newspaper, and then it would spell some part of my name wrong, and the retraction would come out 2 weeks later, and nobody knew what you were doing, okay? So we are far cry from where we were before. But two things I would say, in terms of our morale as an athletic nation, it is not there. It is getting there on an individual basis, but on a country level, we are not there. Remember that when you have a country like Jamaica, they're writing off of legacy. They've seen it done before. When you see a man run 9 point whatever, as far as you're concerned, you eat the same cassava and eddas and whatever he's eating, and you can do it too. Whereas here, it's few and far between, so it's very hard for our athletes at that, especially that junior level, to see themselves there. What do we do to get them there? Motivation does a lot. I tried my part in terms of any motivational speeches and so forth, but that can only carry you so far. But I know the power of it in the sense of, one time I did a motivational speech for, it was the most soul satisfying thing I ever did, 1,000 to 1,100 boys, I think it was St. Leonard's boys. That was at a time that they were now coming up in the ranks. And to see these boys staring at me, hanging on to every single single word, just me telling them that they could do it. And that year, they came one of the highest they had ever ranked in track and field back then. It was like 6th position. And I remember one of them telling me, we believe just because you said we could. The power of the spoken word is strong. What happens if we speak to our youth a little bit more about what they're capable of doing? Because we don't. We don't. As I said, we only tell them after the fact, yeah, I knew you would win, you know. I knew you would bring home the goal. I always knew. But we never pump them up beforehand. So we need to look at that aspect more, empowerment and more speaking life into them. And also in terms of just ensuring that the exposure of what they do, where they are and at any level is continuous. That is happening, I think that's great. But one of the things that I foresee to change locally how we see the sport, as simple as a fair, yeah, it sounds simple, but not as simple to put into place. But the same way you have expos, if you want to talk about universities overseas, you want to go to University of Canada or wherever, that university holds an expo or a group of universities hold an expo, invite people to come and they go and see what's possible. Perhaps we can do that with track and field. Did you know that you could come and volunteer? Suppose people were to get out to their house if they only knew, wait, so even though I'm not a child in sport, I could come down and I could measure say, I didn't know that. Suppose we make it all exciting that you can come and be a part of this sport, whether you ran a lick in school or not. Suppose we let people know that all we need is you present, and we made it a sort of movement to get people out and come and support a sport they don't know about. Suppose we use some sort of fear to let people know, did you know that there were X amount of clubs in Barbados? And that this one focuses on this and that one focuses on that? Suppose we hold some sort of awareness session where we invite Bajans to see track and field and what it is really about. Because sometimes it can feel like a best kept secret. To be honest, us in the fraternity know about it and we participate about it. But suppose the rest of Barbados were allowed to feel that, no, we want you, we want to recruit you. They might take up the offer.
Thank you again. So I'm going to combine these next two questions because I think they're kind of similar. And I'm going to ask you, the panelists, I know the Barbados Track and Field Alumni Association, you know, they're all about moving track and field forward. So from your perspective, what are some short-term things that we can do right now in the next week, 2 weeks, that can help bring about change in the next year? And then long-term, what are some of the things that we can do long-term to really get Barbados track and field where we would love to see it? We're doing well, but we can do better. So what are some of the short-term plan suggestions that we can put in place tomorrow? And then what are some of the long-term? And you can probably give about 2 or 3 each of you. I see Kaji has the mic ready, he's ready to go.
A couple of things. I heard someone mention something about, you know, not getting enough volunteers and people that are training.
Me, not someone.
So, Smith is here and she's trained excellent technical people around the world, not just here. But she's right here. This is in the room. You can go and ask her 2 questions about technical aspects of anything on the field. She can answer it. So we don't have to go very far. So I think if we put something up, maybe something on television or the radio saying, we're looking for volunteers to come in, we're going to teach you how to do X. Come on in and you can be at the next 10 track meets that we plan to have in Barbados and utilize your skills and what you've learned. And you may even be able to go on and be a referee at the World Championships in Budapest or wherever the next one is. Just because you've learned something, you have the skill. They always need it. I know in the US, the youth meets that I was involved in, I coached for 10 years doing that. And I saw people doing this. They would train them, make sure they had the skill. They had a crew to take up the hurdles and do all that. But these people knew they need to raise the flag, they need to call something, and what the particular rule book said about it. And we have that through the Caribbean, but are we doing it here? And we have someone that that can teach us how to do it. She has the book on it and the experience, many years of it. So that's one of the things we can do now. Second to that is empowering not just parents and volunteers, but empowering you, just like she said. I remember they brought Carlos here to talk about how to do certain things, and people love that. We all know who Carlos is. We got Hannah Grimes in the room. You can go find his name up on the board at the University of Kentucky. 45 seconds way back in the day before anybody in Barbados ran 44. We got this back in here. There's still people up there trying to run what she ran many years ago, 53 seconds over hers. We can have those people come and talk. They're from Barbados. They might even be able to say a winner so that people can understand. So my point is we can do some things right now that youngsters can be impacted and adults can get involved and do something with some of their time and some of the passion that they show within them so that we can actually start to win some of these times. But that's what I do.
Long term. What are some of the things that we probably can do long term?
Long term, I think we need to have more meetings at the local level so that the entire country can start to get involved. So, instead of having one person that's a really good runner that everybody is like, I want to see what this person's going to do. They're all looking at the next person that's coming up. So-and-so ran really fast last year, but there's this guy over here at this school, or maybe from his club or another club, that's doing something and people know who they are. And they can speak to, I think this person's going to do well, and they can support. And some of that support could very well be monetary to help them to get in curricula and to other things outside of curricula so that they can get in necessary competition. 3 or 4 competitions a year doesn't bring up everything. A full schedule does that.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to let it flow. Gabriel has the mic again.
And the floor is here.
All right, short term. Marketing. Aisha mentioned earlier that Shadi was home for nationals and no one was there. We didn't know. I'm a coach, I've been for every single track meet. And the only time I knew Shadi was going to be at home for nationals was when I drove into the stadium and I saw Shadi warming up. Right? My thing is that since COVID, the Barbadian public, we haven't been able to see our top athletes come together. And I really think that if we had better marketing, we would not have missed the ball of Shadi being here. Because Shadi right now, worldwide, right? So marketing is one of the things that I would look at. I'm gonna be honest, the track meets are broken. Right?
I didn't hear that one.
The track meets are boring. Let me not really say it. Right, they're boring. But what I want to say, getting from the prelims to the finals, you have to be able to get through, as a spectator, you have to be able to get through the prelims, right? Because the prelims are generally, they're drawn out, there's a lot of time in between races and stuff. Right, I think we need to be able to compact the prelims and even have some fillers in between to get the audience, the spectators more involved, right? And that would make people want to come out. I know a lady, she's in here tonight, she left after the prelims on Saturday, right? And she didn't know Shadi was running, and she didn't get to see Shadi run, right? Because it was so hard going through the prelims. And like I said, I've been to every single track meet, especially after the PSAT. And it really is a struggle, right? So we need to have less time in between. And this is not a knock on the AV or the organizer or anything, right? I do know we struggle with volunteers and stuff, and I think they're doing a very good job. Should we just say we've come a long way, and yes, we have, right? The way things were in the past, we've come a long way, and we a long, long way. And kudos to the AAB, this current administration, for being able to do that. I remember when the track meets broke, when I talk about representing Barbados role. I think when we went to the Olympics, Noah Lynch was now minister. He gave Tanya, Victor, and I some money. Right? And then we went to Panama in '99. My coach, he gave us some money. He gave Tanya and I some money. But now, when you represent Barbados, the association, through their efforts, first lowering the debt, and now they're to the point where every athlete and every coach, they get a stipend. And believe me, that goes a very, very long. Right? So kudos to the AD for making that progress. Long term, what I think we can also do is have internal competitions. And I'm not talking about club championships, that sort of stuff. The same way there's a Diamond League, the format for the Diamond League where you earn points to go to the final, I think that's something that we can do here in Barbados. And I'm saying it's something we can do because my club did it before. We had something called Friday Night Lights. And what we did is that we had indoor events. And like I said, Friday Night Lights, it was Friday Night Holiday Lights. Ms. Maynard helped me to organize that. And Astrid Ellie, who's another former athlete, they helped me to organize it. And what it was is that athletes would come and they would run, and their position would earn them points to the grand final. And then we had prizes at that final, and that final was at Carrollton. And it was packed. Right? We had music and everything. So those are those short-term things, right? Long-term, it starts with getting a seat. Right? That's where it starts.
Is the minister here, by the way?
The reality is that we need facilities. Right? We cannot compete with the others if we don't have proper facilities. And I wish you asked the minister, I wish the Prime Minister was in here. Because I believe that Barbados as a nation should be building the national stadium. I don't think we should be waiting on China. I don't think we should be waiting on China to build a national stadium. I honestly believe that if Barbados came together and through sponsorship, right, whereas if this person puts $20, right, your name gets to go on the wall around the stadium. But the Prime Minister beat me to it and put the names on the wall down there in town. Right? But my thinking is that as you put money in, once you put money in, you get to be an owner of the national stadium. Right? And then your name goes on the wall. So you can show your grandchildren, hey, I helped build this. And there are 270,000 people in Barbados. Everyone will not give $20 or $50, but some will give a couple thousand. Right? And even if that doesn't add up to building the stadium, it's a start. Another thing I would like to see, and I thought about going back to come forward. Who in here remembers the Tesco Games?
Yeah.
Tesco Games was massive. Right? And I think that if we have Tesco Games, that would bring people out to the sport. And should you copy that Tesco Games? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember and I was top of the seat stand watching. Yeah. Right? And that was always huge. Another thing we did, and I told Roger about it, what we can do also. So we can start there, invite another country, right? And we have your best versus our best, right? We can start small and just build. And I think we can go a very, very long way. It's tiring to be complaining and arguing for the same things that people way before me for arguing and complaining about. It's very frustrating, right? And I think that as a nation, like I said, we've come a long way, but I think we can do a lot further. It's a multi-billion industry, but we're just taking thousands.
All right. Yes, before you go, Sharita, we're going to open the floor after this. If you have any questions or any comments for about 5 minutes. So after this question, we'll open the floor and then we'll summarize. Go ahead, Sharita.
All right, so short term, quickly, I think very business-minded, very matter-of-fact, my points, my plan, and execute. So immediately I go back to that. We want you. A recruitment drive, where we call it, all of Barbados. Look, these are the activities we have, the events we have. Believe it or not, we want you. And you put out a fair, whether it's a Saturday or whatever, set up in an area. These are different events that you know at Javelin. And somebody, you know, who's 50, 40, whatever, but I used to do Javelin in school, I didn't do right. So they would teach me how to do it, and they tell me. You will get people coming out from all of Barbados. And then in preparation for going into conditioning season, you already have a core of people that you can pull from, whether it's for cross country, for javelin, for jumps or whatever, in terms of volunteerism that you can rely on throughout the season. They're not coming to us. They're not coming to the association, or they're not going to just turn up at track and field uninvited. You have to make them feel as if it's a clarion call, we want you, like how you do with the Army. So that's short term. In terms of long term, I think, in terms of long term, I think partnerships, pump me up, let me explain. Partnerships in terms of, and Gabriel said it aptly, one of the things that whenever I remember track and field and the height of track and field when there was a buzz, was when you had games like the Texaco games. And just going back to what he said, you can partner at different levels. It doesn't always have to be country-wise, but even one of the things that brought people to track and field too was when there was synergy sometimes with, obviously you can't do it anymore in the stadium, but when we had the cycling and track and field, you could do partnerships with football and track and field. One of the largest spectatorship that they had, numbers that they had, was when I was helping do marketing for the association. We went to a football match the weekend before a track meet, and we put flyers on every single car, about 300 cars. Guess what? Bajans just want something to do on the weekend. We got half those people to come back to track and field, so we have to find events that we can partner with. Even boxing. Remember the last time they had a boxing ring at the stadium that you could do some sort of synergy that when you do some sprints, you got a boxing bout or whatever, but those are the things that are going to get people who will not normally come to the sport to come. And remember too, little children in particular always have a following of about how many people? A minimum of 5. Parents, grandparents, aunties, in between whatever might be junior races, hell, a bit more of the little people races in there, or little people activities, because they bring a posse. Pump me up in terms of, and Gabriel is right, one of the track meets I went to, because I remember Aisha said she was working, so I said, I go into a track meet, man. I was so excited to go on there by myself, and I was struggling in the stands to stay awake. I said, how it come to this? This can sound real basic, right? But back in the day, when there was a little trumpet and a burner at my sports, we were excited about sports. From the time that music was taken out of school sports, there was a death of the energy associated to sports. I'm being honest with you. You know, and you have so many schools with musical departments that they would love to be involved with what we do. And once again, you brought them back in, they bring a posse with them as well. So it was partnerships, pump me up, and there was something else with a P that I cannot remember, but those are what I have in mind for long term.
You'll remember before we finish it, I'm sure.
I need to add one point.
I said it twice, I didn't make that.
Go ahead, Kaji.
I just wanted to add that if and when that stadium is built, I can bring anybody here that you want to see. If you want to see Kenyans run around the track so fast you don't believe it's 10 laps, I can get them here. I know all those ages. If you want to see the biggest quarter mile or the biggest 100-meter guy, I can call that agent or email him and say, hey, we want to have you come here. Of course, there's money involved, but they will be here. and the whole of Barbados will turn out to see it.
But you will hold you to that.
It'll be like that.
We'll hold you to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I could go now. You're so sweet. I absolutely love recommendations. I absolutely love sounding like a stick record. We can do more if we have more. After all the long talk, when it comes down to execution, you just can't find a body. Right? And I know I'm not going to be very popular with this, but we can do X, Y, Z if we had more. If you think that track and field is not where it's supposed to be, the marketing was come and help. If you're good with social media, listen, join a committee. There's a PR committee, there's a fundraising committee, there's an athlete development committee. Mr. Hammer-Grace is looking to jumpstart. There's the Women's Commission. It's very hard to keep women involved and motivated in sports. There are things that each and every one of us can be a part of. It's not a secret society, as I said before. And I also do agree that because you have, and we can't have a lot of meets right now because you don't have enough officials. The officials are burning out, right? And it is not free to have a meet. There are many costs associated with it. But even with the officials that are here, you still try to give them a little lunch, give them some drink, something to keep them motivated to come. But with more people, we can do more. That's the first thing. The second thing is that definitely with the facilities, the new stadium, we can host international meets. We can bring persons from the South America, Central America, not just the USA and the Northern Caribbean, but we can do so much more. And the reason why you don't see a lot of athletes performing necessarily at our nationals is because we're pulling them away from better facilities to come around where the facilities aren't as good, right? So you still don't want to. You still have to try to balance it, all right? And coming out of COVID, that's one of the reasons why you didn't necessarily make it mandatory to come home for nationals. And this is something that comes up every year at our board. We would love for them to come here to show the Barbadian public, to represent, but they risk injury. At the same time, they risk broken contracts. Sometimes people may need to be at this meet. If they come home, they can't get to that one. So it's a lot of dynamics that we have to keep in mind. The third thing that I want to mention is that when we are speaking of track and field long term, so to speak, I think in order for us, our main goal is to win a medal. Our main goal is to get athletes to that next stage. And I feel as if, and it's something that has come up in our discussions as well, where we don't necessarily, we look to see where there are spaces where we can improve. Like for example, 400 meter hurdles women, always undersubscribed, especially at Carifta. Sometimes you can't find 3, whether it's under 18 or under 20. So you want to look for those events where the athletes are not necessarily many, and you develop them to run them. There are some athletes right now that are running 400 meters that are knocking at the Carifta door and not quite there. Maybe they can run 400 hurdles. If there are 100 meter hurdlers, maybe they can do 400 meter hurdles. There are persons who don't necessarily want to run a 3,000, but you feel to run a 3,000 a lot either. Maybe you can try it. So what I'm saying is that we as a country can also look to see where we can monopolize our weaknesses and where events are undersubscribed and look to build those up. I do agree with the fair, I do agree with the communities, going into the communities to see if they got a guy who can throw a shot put, he can throw a rock, he can throw a shot put too. Let's see how that works. But again, more hands means you can execute a lot of these things easier. Even in planning this week with the Carifta Association, you have to help. And if you don't help, then same people are going to be burning out. Let's not keep that record going where the same people, the same faces, year after year. Because next year, the year after, 5 years from now, we're going to be having the same conversation, right? And secondly, there's nothing stopping people from putting on track meets that they want to see, right? We used to love the relays. I even competed at the relays when we had the relays in February, and that was, everybody enjoyed that. But you go help. That's my tip.
Thank you. So I'm going to open to the floor, but before we get to the floor, I have someone here who's messaging me. The person said, don't call up my name for your program here. Anyhow. The person is basically saying, yes, we can do mixed sports. I see no reason why at football you can't have a couple of relays or mixed relays with the different age groups. And you can combine with other sporting federations to host some of these things. The other comment from them is, coaches are more about themselves than sharing information. There's lots of knowledge among our coaches, but they need to share that information and help the athletes to develop. So now I'm going to turn it to the floor if you have a question or a comment. Step right up.
Mr. Grimes.
Please say your name and if you want to say a little bit about yourself, and then you can make your comment or ask a question.
Well, my name is Hamo Grimes. I don't know, some of you old folks in here know this.
Your mic is not on.
Oh, it's on.
Uh-oh.
All right, as I said, my name is Hamo Grimes. And I'm Barbados, represent Barbados at the 76 and Woo! The old folks in here know me, but a lot of the young folks probably never heard of me in Hamo Grimes, but that's okay. I'm retired. I'm retired as an engineering manager from the United States. I'm retired back home. I'm getting involved back in Barbados after that. My goal is, I'm representing the AAB right now because the AAB has initiated an Olympic development subcommittee with the intent of to address all the questions and all the concerns you guys have in your race. All right? As a committee, the committee had our first meeting on March 22nd. And since then we had three other meetings. We have gotten pretty deep into the plan of what we think it would be. We developed a mission statement. We developed a mission statement. A vision statement. We have a vision. We want to develop a vision statement, which would be on the lines of achieving and maintaining excellence in Barbados athletics.
Yeah.
That's the big picture.
Right.
But to get that big picture, we've got to have a goal. And we're setting our goal to be, we want to have an Olympic goal by at least 2028. That's our goal. There are a lot of things we need to do to make sure that happens. That's not just going to happen. We, as the association, the AAB, we need to have those elements in place to make sure that we know, the athlete knows, the whole of Barbados knows, that when we put a guy in the final of the 800 meters or a lady in the 400 meters, we know that they're going to win, right? But that starts with development. And right now, the subcommittee have identified a number of things we need to do. We need to focus on the junior athletes through curriculum. We're calling that phase 1. We're getting the issue with what we do with the elite athletes. Our plan is to have in place by the end of the year, we want to identify 25 athletes through curriculum, maybe 10 athletes at the primary level, and those would make our phase in our company of what we're going to do. We start with the 22 or 23 we took the first games, and we will focus, we are calling those our elite athletes. right, or elite athletes. And what we would do, the AAB would get involved. They would get involved with the coaches. They would get involved with the parents. They would get involved with and make sure that those athletes are being trained. They have the physical needs, the mental needs. We all talk about those things are needed. The support. There's a mentorship element of that also. And what we see is that, those athletes overseas will link those guys up with similar disciplines, athletes with at the junior level, and the junior athletes will be linking up the current. What we believe is that to get that gold medal, we got to have the best athlete. And we want to be able to catch the kid, the boy or girl at the primary school level, and have athletics, make athletics attractive to them. We want athletics to be more attractive than cricket or football, that we get that good athlete into athletics. And we are building those bases, we are building those blocks because we're getting the athletes, we're supporting them, as an association, we're taking care of their needs. We're following them on them, their parents, the schooling, their coaches, their physical, doctors, and make sure that, we have that investment. And I know once we have demonstrated that investment, that they're going to reciprocate, and they would be conditioned at that level that they know that they're representing Barbados and it's important and that we have the support of it. I heard a statement, it takes a village to raise. We, as a country, needs to raise that athlete to be a gold medal winner. Barbados has never had our national anthem played on the world stage. At the Olympics. I take that back. Alicia, you don't keep me right. At the Olympics. But that's what we want. And I want to see that. I know we can do that. I hear the saying,
Talking, Mike.
Okay. I hear the saying that, Barbados is small. We don't have the resources. Then we say, what Jamaica is, Grenada won a gold medal, and St. Lucia, she has and there's a lady that's running that, has that potential. This is Barbados. There's nothing that we can't do in Barbados. If Jamaica, the number of gold medals that Jamaica produced is big out of proportion. Barbados per capita income is 4 times as big as Jamaica. So we can't say there's a problem with money, right?
Yes, we can.
No, we can, but is it real? Is it real? I came back, I retired and came back here 2009. On and off. And one thing I learned from my sister is a teacher at Spring Memorial School. And one thing I learned is that, one thing she said is that you can find money for what you want to do. Right? Right? So if you want to do this, money is not a question. Right? I went to Kentucky State University. Facilities, I heard about facilities too. Facilities is not an excuse. I went to Kentucky State University. They didn't have an indoor track. I left here in Barbados in January of 1976. Ended up at Kentucky State University on the coach team. And And I got there, and we trained in the gymnasium running around a basketball field. So you can overcome those perceived obstacles. But in reality, they're just challenges. But I just want to say, we are a committee on the AAB. We do recognize there's more we can do. And what we're going to do, and what this committee is doing, is developing a plan with action items, exactly what we need to do to take us to that gold medal in 2020. Right? We got to believe that. And it involves everybody, the athlete, the coaches, the parents, the AAB, the government, they're key stakeholder also. So we have had 3 meetings. Our last meeting was on May the 22nd. And we're about to present the plan formally to the AAB. But we're not going to have a general meeting till September. But I want to have another meeting because there's certain elements we need to hash out. So I'm going to have another meeting within 2 weeks. I neglected to say who's on our committee. We have Dr. Ronald Clark. He was an ex-Barbados athlete.
Yeah.
He lives in the States. We have Rupert Spencer. And we have Dr. June Cattle. And we have Mr. Alexander, that's Zachary Alexander's father, right? So he's on the committee, and we have worked. We have 3 meetings. I think they've been pretty successful. Obviously, there are challenges, but that's what we want to do. That's our plan, and they hear you, and we are going to do something about it. And if I'm involved, those who know me, I get results.
Mr. Grimes, thank you. I think you need to also join the Barbados Track and Field Alumni Association so we can roll those ideas in together.
I do have, right now, I'm glad you talked about that. I have a specific action for you guys, and I'll be involved with it.
All right.
I think part of it, we talk about athletic needs. I would like to see the Barbados Athletic Track and Field Alumni Association put on the very first meeting of the year on New Year's Day, right? I challenge you to do that, right? As an invitation, focusing on, our athletes. This is big thing. It's New Year's Day. You think that's a problem? You're not going to get anyone? But I think.
I'm very glad that you have come back and you're being involved in sport. I've heard the name before, but I never actually met you. But I can tell you that I would love to have a conversation with you after this.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's great.
I just see you in Atlanta for all the shirt and stuff. So
Yeah, I know. The Orleans fans of Philadelphia Eagles.
We're finish sharing that. You and I can have a little sit down. All right?
Mr. Grimes, you have someone behind you waiting. I know you're very enthusiastic and your ideas, so we appreciate your comments. I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much, sir. You're part of our whole team, so.
All right.
Good night, Corey. Myself, how much anyway? How to have three points to make.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my name is, good night to the panel, the viewers, good night all. My name is Sandra Small. I am 2000 Corrector Bronze Medalist and 2000 CSC Bronze Medalist. I want to address a couple things I want to respond to a couple things that were expressed in the panel. Aisha would have mentioned there was no support at nationals by the public. But from time immemorial, aside from COVID, I knew nationals to take place like the third week in June. So I was shocked in July that there was nationals. I didn't know. I didn't know. I honestly thought I missed it because it's always the third week in June. So I did a quick little search while you guys were talking. The last post on the AAB Facebook platform was in 2014.
Whoa.
On Instagram, the post alerting people to the nationals was on June 28th. And I don't even know if you guys have Twitter, but it just made me smile because we're in 2023 and we're still not utilizing marketing. Gabriel touched the point about communication. That is one of the areas that we take on getting the word out, right?
Can I respond to that?
Can I respond to that first? Actually, I would prefer if I could say the points first and then you guys respond if that's permissible.
Sure.
Thank you. There was mention about people giving back, people coming to work at needs. I am currently working. I've graduated from uni and I went straight into working. And in the back of my mind, I always told myself, I want to give back. My employers, past and present, do not afford me time to give back. I want to raise the point that I would have indicated interest in doing level 1 and level 2 coaching, whatever the case may be. But it seems as if it is the best kept secret in terms of getting that information when the training dates are out. It seems to be only available to PE teachers or coaches of current clubs.
And I will respond to that.
Okay, fine. So I'm still like, I want to give back. How do I give back? I mean, I enjoy track and field. Honestly, I want to go back and throw this. I want to start out volleyball. I love track and I love volleyball, right? But the information is not there. Okay, I would have tried assisting in technical areas in terms of physical chocolate. So I would help out at Joseph Payne Classic, etc. But yet again, time, work, commitments, things like that. I need the information to know if there are, well, a schedule for the meets, okay, fine, I think that is on the AAB website. But what about training for technical officials, things like that? So that I know what's up, that I could alert my employer ahead of time to say, well, I'm interested in doing this, can I get time to do it? Things like that, right? Culture, it was mentioned about playing. I wholeheartedly agree. And I kind of link that to the whole employee situation because if there's playing by the agents, you know, it wouldn't be so hard to say, well, I can give my employee this time off to attend a track meet to support the children or to work at events. I also agree with Sharita in terms of awareness. Going back to working again, I don't know if it's AAB, BSAP, NUPW, whoever who needs to push the information out and get people involved. And then the last point I wanted to make was in terms of my experience. Now, I get the impression that it hasn't changed too much in terms of what Gabriel and Haji mentioned. So this is my experience back in 2000. So, okay, I realized I got a chocolate and this. I want to get a scholarship. I go to sixth form, but it still felt as if the information was only kept by certain people, certain clubs. I wasn't in, at that time, it seemed to be the baseball stars and freedom strugglers that had the link. So in terms of me getting information in terms of what I needed to do, I had to do that on my own. So I had to go to the ministry application and ask them, well, which institution facilitates SAT exams? And then how do I get the materials to do the SAT exams? So in 2023, I would like somebody here to confirm to me that there's a structure outlined and available to all student athletes to say, okay, you're in track and field, the game is to improve on your times, and ultimately, in junior, we're going to get you ready to get a scholarship. So these are the steps that you need to take. Where you need to go to study for the SATs, where you go to the exam center to take the SATs, what times, what distances you need to reach in order to get, I don't know, notice. And then is it that if I qualify for a curriculum that I have to wait on a scout at that particular need to say, okay, we want to sign you? Or is it that all the clubs know the information, we have all the contacts that we can bring people to look at the athlete, scout the athlete, I guess we call it terms, scout the athlete, and get things in motion so that, you know, by the next nationals, we can announce that 5, 10 athletes have been awarded scholarships and keep the ball rolling like that. Yes, I think that was it.
That was it. All right, so I'm going to let Aisha go first,
Yes.
and then Sharita, and then I'll jump in.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Sandy. Good to see you. Me too. Yeah, with regards to the marketing, I do believe that, especially the Instagram page, that actually they were doing a countdown to nationals, and what they were doing was that they were actually getting some of the athletes to say 8 more days to go to nationals, 7 more days. There was a countdown actually every day for national championships, and ordinarily
On June 28th.
no, you need to look again, because I'm telling you, I saw them.
Yeah.
This is on Instagram.
And I'm getting someone who's messaging me who's telling me that there was updated information actually
Every day.
up to 2 hours ago apparently.
Every day was on
June
June
28th, there was a flyer announcing when the nationals would have taken place. And from then on, you had your countdown. So the nationals was playing July what, 7th or something?
Yes.
So you had a week. I'm just saying in my mind, maybe it could have been 2 weeks before, 2 weeks before, to build momentum.
Yes.
And then you would have a longer period of time too to showcase more athletes.
It was more than that. It was more than that, I promise you, because I was looking at the updates every day, checking to see who was on there to
Not a problem, my office.
And thank you for volunteering to serve our committee and the volunteer.
If you
Sandrina, what is secretary? What I'm trying to tell you is that for any area where we believe it can do better, let us also see how we can contribute to it. And that's the main point this evening. I do not want to hash on the Barbados Instagram page because they have been very active and it's been much better than any other year I've ever seen, where they have intentionally gone to take videos of athletes counting down, and officials as well, counting down the days to nationals. And as it relates to the nationals being in July as opposed to the 3rd week in June, it was an exceptional circumstance.
Yes.
And we would have been given, exactly, and it came from World Athletics. So we were given the window where we could go nationals, right? So I don't want it to go in the public as if we just pick up a date, because that is absolutely not the truth. But I would also say, as it relates to the marketing and the Facebook pages, and so if you can assist creating the content, because you have the same people, as I keep saying, doing the same things all the time. Don't knock it unless you have it.
Agreed, and I think that's what's important. I think I'm going to come to you. I want to let Sharita go first and then you, Kaji. But that's important where people can volunteer. Where many hands make like work. I don't know who's messaging me here, but they're telling me the AAB.sports.bb is the correct website to go to. Somebody's messaging me. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of information there. Sharita, Kaji, and then I'll jump in.
Right, and keep it short and quick. The 3rd P, which I forgot. Afterwards. Public relations, PR. And I'm just trying to pull from what I remember when I was on the marketing committee many moons ago. One of the first things we did when we had got things together, you got to make friends with the media. Remember, they want content. They want content. And making friends with them is not hard. You just invite them to the whatever you're doing first and foremost after this. And all you have to do is tell them, listen, any piece of information I get, I make you my first outlet. Or it should be. This is my website, this is my email address, this is my name, this is my WhatsApp number, this is... So you just need a cohort of, what is it,
six media houses, whether it's radio, the online newspapers, the print media, and so forth. And you make them your buddies. And every piece of information, no matter how small you think it is, you know, John Brown jump, this is how you jump today. You feed it to them. You feed it to make sure you know. And that's how you get your information out there. Once you get that media involved, that's how you spread the word. That's how you make track and field feel as if it is, you know, all for one, one for all.
Yeah, Koji.
Sandrine?
Sandrina.
Sandrine. Okay. Thank you.
I know your field. I had the same thing, fortunately, I knew where to go. Every year for the past 10 years, all national championships around the world, third weekend in June. This year they made a change and moved it to July. But you wouldn't have known that unless you're on World Athletics. I have to be there because I'm an agent. I have to go there to check out. When I see a bona fide athlete, are they really running what they said they're running? I go there and check. So that's how I found out, because I had things planned for me, and it fell on that day and I had to cut it, because everybody around the world will do it the same weekend. Next year, guess what? Third weekend in June. So now you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really public relations.
Yes, at least, when you still doing this was, I could sign a 61-meter tour right now. Yeah, no?
I see there's another question. I'm glad you didn't say they taught you at primary school. Oh yes, my comment. So moving forward, the University of West Indies Cape Campus Academy of Sport, we're going to be working with the AAB to put on both the level 1 coaching certificate, and Esther has promised that we're also going to work on providing, having a technical certificate as well and support for that. So you'll hear about that particularly from the University of West Indies and from the AAB. So we're working to do that together.
Can I jump in here quick? You asked about the scholarships, right? I wouldn't say it's the best kept secret, but I do understand where you're coming from. I can tell you that when I first moved back home, Ramon Armstrong, Sean DePigny, and we put on machine ability. We put on a seminar at UB for third form students. Now I know what subjects and stuff they need, the process and stuff for those scholarships. Right, the SATs and all that. We didn't do that. I think we did it like twice. But after we did it, another sport, they came and they did it, but they charged the athletes. Right, so we stopped, but we did it for free, but they charged because that was already in the back. We have been in discussions for doing another seminar, right? So individually, the clubs they do more. Well, the majority of the clubs they do more, right? I can tell you, I'm at St. Michael every year. I talk to the third form students, so I'm going into fourth form. I go back and I talk to the students and the parents about what is needed. Every year at the beginning, I talk to one of the athletes about what is needed. That's because I know I have the information of organized over 30 scholarships, right? So I know what is needed. I can tell you, like, since COVID, you haven't needed the SATs, right? And this black lady in here, she can tell you that haven't used the SATs, and there's talk about not going back to the SATs. Right, but that, I don't know if it will go back or not, but right now they're not doing the SATs. Yeah. Right, so NCAA, they're always changing the requirements. But I give you my word that we're going to have another seminar and we're going to put the information out there on this meeting.
Yeah, so following up on what you just said, shaping the future of Barbados track and field, something like that should be done continuously. So that would be my hope that for the next generation that they have the information available to them.
Yes.
So that we improve.
It should really be done yearly until the third formers, because you look at the CSC subjects and third form, you're not choosing the subjects that you will do in fourth, fifth, at the CSC level. Right, so it should be done yearly to all third formers that are interested.
If I can say this quickly,
great initiative, but so that you don't put too much pressure on persons to have to put together a workshop or a seminar. Simple thing like putting this as frequently asked questions on the website.
Yeah.
As simple as that. Problem solved. What are the questions that people are asking that we just didn't answer? Put them on the website.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. I see one more question or comment coming. We're going to keep it brief, and then there's another one. And then
we have a couple, so we want to keep them pretty quick.
all right. There's someone else. So we're going to take two, and then I'm going to ask the panelists to summarize their thoughts in a minute or so. So go ahead.
All right, my name is Denise Weeksburg. I'm actually the Vice President of the Barbados Track and Field Alumni Association. And this question is actually from the online audience, from Elvis Ford. As we know, who is our own Barbadian, he's an Olympian. He's the head track and field coach at Temple.
Woo-hoo, to you.
Anyway, this question is actually for Gabriel. And his question to you are, what are your frustrations as a local coach with current infrastructure provided for you to prepare local athletes? And then he's asking, what can he do to help you?
Gabriel massage you with that question.
All right, where do I start? First, we don't have a stadium. If you look at National Stadium, oh my gosh, it's like you can use 4 lanes. So imagine all these clubs kind of able to try and utilize 4 lanes. In the season, we were allowed specific days thanks to Miss Maynard. She was able to work out something. My club, we were training at YMCA, and YMCA, they gave us a huge discount. We paid every month, but they gave us a huge discount, and I'm forever grateful to YMCA. But facilities is huge because people will get and say, yes, you can train on grass and blah, 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 right? But when you train on grass, one, you got to worry about potholes, right? Because it's not smooth grass that you get over there with astroturf and all that, right? Is it potholes and stuff? So we developed a lot of ankle injuries, we developed a lot of injuries, right? Because then too, you're not going to get a track marker all the time. So many times on evenings, I would have to go down there and I would mark out, I would walk around, try to do a curve as good as possible. I'll walk around to try and create this track, right? And I think when you are also on grass, well for me, it was hard for me to set times for athletes to run, right? So like we're constantly began workouts. You want 200 in 20 seconds. So just call the numbers. Because I don't know workouts. Right? You want 600 in 20 seconds. Right? I can't do it on grass. Right? So then I had to go and say, okay, I want you to come in, this amount off of your personal best. So it was an adjustment process for me as well. And you will see that after BSAC, and then you were able to train on the track. Because I'm a technical coach. So I will break down where you can run 400 and stuff. I can't do that break down 400 meters when I got a track that's 150 meters or 20 meters. Right? So that was one of the facilities. I think Aisha mentioned earlier about the gym. Minister of Sport, and I will be forever grateful to the Minister of Sports for this, because I think he's probably the first minister we've had, his current minister, he's probably the first minister we've had that's actually involved in sports. Right? And he set up a gym at the gymnasium that athletes have access to. Right? And that saved us a lot, because if you go to a regular gym, it's like $100 per athlete. There's no club in Barbados that can afford that. And it's hard to ask parents to do that as well. Right? So the gym at the stadium, at the gymnasium, is one that he's set up for athletes. And there's a personal trainer there and stuff. Can't remember the name right now. Roger Boyce, right? Who just had his plastic. He's up there, and they have others as well. They go through the paces and stuff with the athletes. But I think one of the major things to be getting equipment into Barbados. For the life of me, I don't understand why it's so expensive to buy equipment. I know why, because businesses have to make a profit too, right? But if I want to bring in equipment, I have to wait until I travel or until I have athletes coming back in. Like, I've had people bring us starting blocks with me. And you know starting blocks are extremely heavy, right? But that is the route leaders have to go. And I think that sporting equipment is saying that we don't have duties on sporting equipment in Barbados. Right? So there's simple things that I think government can help us with. I mean, they do it for cricket. Right? Why can't they do it for the other sports? Right? Right now, Chalet, Johnson Jones, and then how they perform at Commonwealth, that brought the country together. And lots of cricket done that. Don't talk about the best team. Right? So, the little things like that, we can have. And Alvin Sport, he's a great coach. And we spoke, he was here for a meeting with Boone and stuff, and we had a conversation and stuff. And he let me know that he's a resource that I can tap into. And I'm grateful for that. And like I said, if we just communicate and use the resources that are out there, things will only get better.
All right.
Okay, I'm not going to be long. Good evening. My name is Deborah Rosshart. I am a high school USA TF level 2 coach for cross country and track in New Jersey. I myself go through struggles like we're doing here with track facilities and everything. One of the things I do for high school is because once the kids graduate from high school, if they want to run track, you have to keep looking at colleges. It's a non-stop job. So since I'm in the States, I take my kids to college fairs. But I also reach out, my brother, he'll call me and says, hey, you know the colleges that are looking for such and such a person? And I could refer him to certain coaches. Like this year, Phil Dickinson, we're looking for female sprinters, and Villanova was too. You know, when I talked to them early in June. However, my big question was, I graduated from Drake University, and I continued running in 1985, but I continued running because I wanted to continue running. I wanted to maybe go Olympic team. I wanted to go through all this stuff, the experience. I mean, back in the day, I remember traveling with Clyde Edwards to go to meets in Boston. You know, we punched in the car, and we're driving 5 hours to go to Boston to go. The thing is, the struggle was living, the training and the competing and finding meets. I used to have to call the meet directors myself. I mean, I went as far as probably Virginia, I did Maryland, George Mason, I did the whole Eastern Coast. The thing is, we have athletes today that are not on contract, that are senior athletes. We talk a lot about the young athletes, but I didn't hear a lot about senior athletes. I could probably call about 4 or 5 that I think right now that do not have contracts. When this season is over, or if how can we help these athletes, even if we bring them back here, train them, and then at some point in time find meets where they're in Jamaica or somewhere so they can go and get the meets in that they need to be productive? That is my big question. How is the organization going to be able to, I know that's a tough goal right now, but we have athletes today that need that help. How can we find a way to put the resources to help those athletes?
Quickly, Kaji.
There is a way. Jamaica does it. They support those people. Usually they've reached the stage of performance with the coach that they're with. So if I had someone that was being coached by Elvis, I would bring them back here. I would send money to help them. They need a place to stay. They need some things to review. Fortunately, because he's at a university, they can use some facilities. Sometimes that's a problem because they're going to say, well, we don't want to go through with this financial burden. Suppose they get hurt, and then they got to sue against us. So sometimes, even though you ran for that school I went to, I'm a Hall of Famer there, and I went to coach some kids there. It was $289 a night. Not that $100 you're talking about. I had to pay some money. And I couldn't get that from parents, not with 6 kids. So my point is, the same support we're asking for, a nice pool of money set aside to help those ones that are seen as possibly that gold medal that Hammer is talking about in 28. help them. You gotta help them. I can go all the way back to 76 when Orlando Green grew up and asked for assistance. He had the second fastest time in the world at that time. He didn't get any assistance. We didn't have the money. And he didn't get any meetings. And by the time he got to, I think it was Montreal, 76 was next. By the time he got there, he wasn't in 1:46.2 shape anymore because he didn't have any competition. And that still is the case today. Shada is okay. She has a Nike contract, so she has a travel budget there and so forth. I don't know what the amount is, but I know those contracts, so I know she's okay. And she's going to be able to continue. Jonathan, I don't know if he's decided on the agent as yet, but I don't know if he has the funds on his own, and I'm sure he doesn't. If he has a contract, he might be able to do it. So we need to have a pool of money set up. We need business involved, we need government involved, and we need us involved in order to be able to do that if we really want to see that momentum.
All right. Well, quick, Gabriel, and then I see there's a young man standing, so.
I think that's where corporate Barbados and government needs to get involved. I can't say this after when Kuron Griffith, who the association is helping in Jamaica. He has moved to Jamaica in the association. They facilitated that and they're helping him. On the flip side, Shane Rockwood. I mean, last year at Commonwealth Games, Shane told me he had lost his contract, and I was in shock. And so Shane and I was like, Shane, all right, this is what you do. When you get on the podium, before the Barbados watch, let Barbados know you've lost your contract. Because in my head, I'm thinking we have this Barbadian athlete that's putting Barbados on the map, and he's been doing it forever. Right? Forever. This man is just produced. And I said, Shane, if you do that, somebody from Barbados, some corporation in Barbados is going to help you. Shane just won gold at CSC. And to this day, no one from Barbados is helping Shane. Right? So that's where corporate Barbados have to understand that they too have to play a part. Right? You can't do it on our own, the association can't do it on our own. Right? We really do need corporate Barbados and government to leave over.
All right, we're really hitting the almost 2-hour mark, so we're going to take the last 2 questions or comments, and we'll ask just one panelist to respond if it's a question, because we have to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
My name is Kevin. Kevin K. From Africa. Not too special. Y'all made a lot of good points tonight. And one thing I want to add, finally from the panel, is the likelihood of community, because the target audience is Barbados, different communities. Every club is a community. And what kind of clubs, because we're not saying that it doesn't seem something that's club. There are many clubs. Every community that a club is in, it has a need. Every community has a need. How can clubs give back to communities? And this is not an original idea. This is a better idea when you see European football teams or the American basketball teams. They'll always point back into the community. And that's how to build a rapport and a relationship with the communities to come and support the sports. Because if we want support, then we too have to give back to the communities. We just can't ask them on a whim to come out and support us. We're not willing to support them. So, what is the likelihood? I hope clubs can grow with doing that. I hope clubs can be encouraged to grow with doing that. That's one question. Another one is, I think I heard 2 or 3 touch on grassroots. Mr. Gilbert, I heard the events that you're doing.
Yeah,
Let me stop butchering it, but I heard about it. And then last year, I saw for a Simon Foundation, did something similar. And the energy was amped up. grassroots, I think that is definitely, grassroots and community, I think those two things will definitely start to advocate or advertise to the community to great Barbados and can bring people back into track and field because the pandemic has really dampened a lot of spirits. So I think going back into the community, doing grassroots beats, we're happy to do too. I don't know who to vote with. That's when y'all out there.
Sorry.
So yeah, the grassroots, but the noise means, competitions, something that we need to definitely work on, and I think that will go forward. So I think I'll address those two things, community, outreach, grassroots.
It seems like Gabriel will take this one.
I don't want to feel like I'm hogging up here, but yes, I have a club, so I guess I can address that now. We talk about North American sports compared to track and field and communities. The thing is that in North American sports, there are professionals that are from that city, right? So they're going to give back to the city that they're from. Whereas here, the clubs are basically all the schools, right? All the schools, not communities, all the schools. So, Quantum is also my school. Talents is all of Columbia Springer. Rising Stars is all of Leicester. The distance is all of CP, right? So, it's not necessary that we can give back to the communities. What it is that we forge partnerships with schools. And for the grassroots, we talk about going into communities and having these meets and stuff. I can tell you for one, I'm not going to do that because I'm scared of the pastors that are in these communities. And the next thing that community sports are cricket and football. Right, so I will have to say, okay, I'm going to double playing Thursday evening at 4 o'clock. But then when they get the double playing, they got to put cricket or football. Right, and then that's another issue that we would have. Right, so but the main reason I wouldn't do it is the risk of injury, because you have to get to learn a pastor when you're going to be running on it. I can't just take them athletes and take them somewhere wrong. Right? So that's my part of the club and concern.
Again. All right, this is the last comment question, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Roger Weeks, and I reside in Michigan. I am a corrector representative, 17. And I could speak ad nauseum about my experience, but I'm not here to do that. I like solving problems. And I think that we have the talent, we have the expertise, not only here in Barbados, but also overseas, and who's watching with us. What I would suggest is that we have a talent bank where folks overseas can register their name if they want to participate and help this initiative. I would like for them also to indicate their skill set so that they can join committees and address the issues. What we need to do is to identify the problems and remove the barriers that are creating the things that are preventing us from moving forward. We have the folks, we have the talents, we have the athletes. We can do it. But we need to identify the problems and figure out who the people are, what the structure is, and move those people and fix the structure so that we can move forward. We can say we want to be like Jamaica, but we can be like Barbados as Barbadians. We can set that standard, and I like this organization and want to be a part of it where, rather than people say, oh, look and see what the Jamaicans doing, look and see what the BTFAA is doing. All right, Roger. Coach Ross sat there and said, I'm writing a book, because what I've done is I've listed a number of the ideas and suggestions and all those kinds of things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be checking off those things that we will be doing. And We can't do it with just the committee. Everybody got to do it. So those who are viewing, get on the website, indicate your name, what you can do, your ideas, your suggestions, and let us work together to make this happen. We can do it. I know we can. And one other thing is that I know that, Gabriel, I know you talk about going around and set up tracks at different areas in the country. And I know that we are short on distance runners. I happen to be a distance runner. But what I would suggest, and I'll sit down, is that we move around in different parishes and set up cross-country courses. And move the sport, the distance, like a 5K to St. Philip, and see who is the best 5K runner in the schools for each parish, right? And that way we can just start building distance runners, and then try to work with them and help them to be a good distance runner out of Barbados. Again, my name is Roger Weeks, and it's a pleasure to be here. I want to work with all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks. Thank you very much. I have to make a disclaimer here. I am just a moderator. I'm not part of the organization. I know they're trying to reel me in, but I am fighting, tooth and nail not to be involved as yet. But a lot of things you've said tonight have hit some real salient points as far as my knowledge about sport and track and field, and being part of the University of the West Indies too as well. And I can say a whole lot, but I'll keep it to those few words, and I'll let the panelists just sum up in a minute or two their whole thoughts about getting track and field back, or getting track and field where, I'm not going to say back, getting track and field where we see it in 5-10 years time. So I'll give each panelist a minute or so.
You go first.
Again, one of the things I really want to see is Barbados producing Barbados athletes. After speaking to some of our athletes at the Commonwealth Games, I learned that they all prefer to be in Barbados. But maybe expose our athletes to the North American system, and they go to college, and they have all these great facilities and recovery and stuff. There's no need to come back here because we can't provide it. Right? So I think we need to pull on our resources and get Barbados to that stage, because I'm going to be totally honest with you. It hurts me when I go to a track meet as a national athlete and I see Shadi, and I saw Shadi having to do her work with the Jamaicans, because it felt if Jamaica was saying, y'all can't do this, so we're going to do this for y'all. You're here, so you owe us, right? And that may not be what it is, right? But that's what I felt. I'm appreciative for Jamaica for developing our athletes, right? But I think that we, as a nation, if we put on the resources that we have, we can do it on all of them.
Aisha?
Yes, thank you. I believe that we should each be the change that we want to see as we maintain. And I also feel as if there's a sense of pride in each and every one of us when we see our 4x4s run, when we see Shane on the podium, when we see Shane run, when we see Kyle Gay, Jonathan Jones. There's a sense of pride for all of us. And when our athletes go to the World Championships, the big ones, we are all very happy that it all comes down to our execution and from year to year. When it's cross country, when it's the start of the year, let us all come together. We do have the resources, we do have the ability, but again, as I always say, it comes down to execution and being able to make these things more excellent, a more excellent way, a better approach. I do want to commend the Barbados Track and Field Alumni Association for giving us this space to talk about it, to have persons hear us, and to be heard as well, and to have plans come out of it. I'm always for not just to have the plans, but what's the next step and how do we execute it and get from point A to B?
Thank you, Aisha. Kaji?
I'll piggyback. You hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Piggyback on what Gabriel said. Last year, I was sitting in the cafeteria at the World Championships, and I said a few words. And this young lady was sitting there, and she screwed up her face, listening real hard. And I was like, "You okay?" She said, "I hear a Bajan voice." And I was shot in. She had no clue that it was a Bajan Asian. She has a Jamaican coach and a Jamaican Indian. I've been in business longer than that. She's a Jamaican. But she doesn't know. I played dominoes with Jonathan. I know his coach, which was Garner, before he went to Texas. I knew the plan. The plan got changed when they changed coaches. And he was like, "No, I didn't know he was an agent. So I'm probably the only one. If there's another one, I don't know who he is or she is." But my point is, like he's saying, it hurts to know that we got good athletes, but they're over there somewhere else, getting the training and the representation and things that we actually got people that can do it. Gabriel trained a young man that I represented from here. He didn't go to the U.S. He trained here and ran fast. Ran 10:07 or something to that effect. First schoolboy in Barbados to get a contract with a major global brand. And that's the guy Kadagi, who's trained right here by Gabriel. And I sent him where I had to send him, got what's necessary for him. And he did fine until things turned in a different direction from there. But the point is, it can be done here. That's how Jamaica did it. They wanted to stop sending their talent to the U.S. because they said they were being burned out. So they started doing it at home. We have the same type of facilities that they do. They train our pastors just like we. But because they're good, they got a nice stadium and they make sure they put a good track down. And then they got some other tracks that they can go to. We can do this. Just like Rodriguez was saying, we can do this. That's my point.
Thank you. Sharita?
All right, now that the brain is firing, public relations, partnership, and pump it up. So public relations, I think we've all enjoyed the diversity of information that we've got, and we've realized that it can be simple to disseminate the information. Let's put it out there. Let's get a cohort of those in the public domain when it comes to media and keep them abreast of all details so that there's no excuse for getting the information out there, whether it's about coaching, whether it's about being involved, volunteerism, or what it simply takes to get a scholarship somewhere. Public relations even goes as far as not only highlighting our own athletes, their prowess and so forth, but Bajans affiliated with the sport. Athletes might not know about you. Imagine if they knew that you were there. Imagine if they knew that this Bajan coach was at this university. Let's expose it. Awareness, partnership. Take the meets that we have. We know the formula to make a meet run, but let's do something to make it pull in masses of people. So if you know that there are people that like other sports, what are the other sports that they're going to? How can we synergize that and pump it up? We like track and field, but we gotta be exciting. We gotta be feel fussy about it. How do we do that? And I go back to the basics, get the music departments of the schools involved, even come up with something simple. We're looking for the bands that are coming out with the best noise on this weekend, whatever. It will force them to come out, and remember, each group that comes brings a posse with them. So immediately you add spectators to the stands without even trying. And athletics made it for me. It made me get to places that I could not have got to without the scholarship. And I know that it goes above and beyond just the sport. It is about transforming lives and taking Bajan lives to another level. The fact that we're here tonight means that we all have a vested interest. And I think if we put what we have spoken about tonight in action, we can see things happen. It does not take reinventing the wheel, but taking these little bits and pieces and putting them together.
Thank you very much. Well said. I want to say thank you to the Alumni Track and Field Association of Barbados.
I'm messing up the name, but you know what I mean, for putting on this discussion tonight. I think a lot of great things came out of this discussion. I want to say thank you to Gabriel. Gabriel known me for a long, actually I know him for a long time, except Koji. Thanks Aisha, thanks Koji, and also thanks Sharita for being the panelists here tonight. I'm sure everyone would like to give them a round of applause for doing a fantastic job. Also, special thanks to the NUPW for allowing us to have this session here tonight. DJ Silk for providing the mics and so on and the old music we had before. Sports BB for allowing us to stream this live. And New Hope Charity, who paid for that streaming. Sports BB, by the way, offered a very discounted fee for tonight. So we want to say special thanks to you and the NCC for providing the plans here tonight to make the room look lovely. Thank you, audience, for being here, and we look forward to you joining and registering tonight as part of this association. It's only $50 a year, so you can start to register before you leave, and let's make track and field in Barbados a magnificent and a wonderful experience for all our young people. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic night. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking us through tonight. Very good job as a moderator. Thank you, everyone. Applause to Rudy.
Thank you. You can stop streaming, but Gabriel, I want you to know that the government and the BOA has a plan.